Rick Beitman, and I'm the editor-in-chief of DasTor News, and here today we are doing our first live interview with Arizona Cardinals NFL player and fellow T-bird Sam Acho. Sam, thank you very much for being here today.
Rick, thanks for having me.
Of course. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions. So before you became a T-bird, maybe tell us about yourself. Tell us about your college experience, football, and maybe your drafting to the NFL.
Yeah, so grew up in Dallas, Texas, and played a lot of different sports and got pretty good at football. Ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Texas. And so I played college ball there and was working on my business degree as well. I was a business honors major. And I didn't really expect to make it to the NFL, I guess because so many young kids have that dream and it's pretty rare that people make it. So I was pretty much giving my all in the classroom. At the same time, I was also giving my all on the football field. And pretty much after my second year, my sophomore year, I saw that the guy who was starting in front of me, Brian Arakpo, was a first-round pick. So that same year that I was backing him up, he was a first-round pick, the 16th or 11th overall pick, and he went to the NFL and he did really well. And when I saw that, that's when I knew I had an opportunity. So I really decided to dedicate myself and really give this dream a chance.
Once you were actually picked, what were your reactions and what was it like your first few years playing for the Cardinals?
Yeah, the draft process is it's a crazy process. So, how it works, you spend 4 years playing college football, and then you get a draft grade. So you'll get a grade, pretty much a projection. They may say you're a first-round pick, or a second to third-round pick, or maybe a mid-round selection, which is like fourth, fifth, or third, fourth, or fifth, or a late pick, or maybe a free agent, right? And so I got the projection after my senior year of a mid-round pick, which is third, fourth, or fifth, but with potential to grow. So they said if I do well at the combine, the NFL combine, the Senior Bowl, which is pretty much an all-star game, and my pro day, which is pretty much a local scouting combine, if I do well in all three of those, then my draft stock should move up. So I went to the combine and did really well, was a top performer in pretty much every category, set a record for one of the drills called the L-cone drill, measuring quickness. I went to the Senior Bowl and won most outstanding performance for a defensive player, and went to pro day and did really well there as well. So I figured that I was moving all the way up the charts, maybe even had a chance to be a first-round pick. So as the draft is set up, the first round's on day 1, rounds 2 and 3 are on day 2, and then rounds 4 through 7 are on day 3. So I had a draft party, friends and family came, and day 1, nobody called. That probably wasn't good for us. Day 2, which is rounds 2 and 3, still nothing. And then finally, day 3, I got a call from the Arizona Cardinals, and I was just excited for an opportunity. Many people don't get an opportunity, so I decided to have that chance just to be able to go and play for a team that I had always dreamed of playing, just even in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. So in regards to your performance in the NFL, I know that you did suffer a leg injury recently. How has that impacted your ability to play, and how long do you anticipate continuing to play in the NFL?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. So I want to play as long as I can, right? I want to, after football, I'd love to get into a little bit of broadcasting as well as use my MBA for some business work. And I talked to a guy named Kurt Menefee, who's in the broadcasting world, and I asked him for advice on what I should do as far as getting into that world. And he even said, hey, Sam, I would play as long as I can. If I were you, play as long as you can, and then 2 more years. And then after that, broadcasting will still be there. So I want to play for as long as I can, plus 2 years. And as far as the leg injury, injuries are devastating, especially when your body is your money maker. It's your tool. It's your profession. And so when I broke my leg last year, I wasn't able to play. I couldn't walk, let alone run, let alone play outside linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL. And so it was a tough process. It was definitely a tough process, but it was also a great opportunity for me to grow. It gave me a chance to see that I was talented at more than just on the field sacking quarterbacks or tackling running backs. It showed me that a different skill set outside of that, which was thankfully in Arizona. I got a chance to do some stuff on TV, and that's why I'm here.
All right, great. So quite used to being on camera already. So maybe just to segue away from that and talk about your family a little bit. I know at Thunderbird everyone kind of has a flair for the international, and your family is originally from Nigeria. So would you like to maybe speak to that a bit?
Definitely. Yeah, my parents were born and raised in Nigeria, both in small villages in Nigeria, and that's where they grew up. And Obviously, Nigeria is a developing country, so they didn't have a lot. They came to the United States in their early 20s and pretty much started a life together. And it was a lot of midnight shifts, a lot of help from other family members with raising 4 kids, and so that's kind of how they started up. And so every year I go back to Nigeria with my family, and so we do medical mission work. We bring doctors and nurses and surgeons and dentists and ophthalmologists. And I mean, the surgeons are removing hernias, the ophthalmologists are removing cataracts, the dentists are pulling teeth. So we do a lot of work back there. So my heart is in Nigeria. My wife as well is from Nigeria. So we've been married we're going on a year, and she's, the best thing that's happened to me.
Your father is a doctor?
Well, my mom's a nurse practitioner. Actually, now she's a DNP. She's a doctor of nurse practicing. My dad has a PhD in psychology.
Okay.
So he's a doctor, but in psychology, but he just has a heart for the people of Africa and Nigeria specifically. And my mom also has that medical background. So they gathered people together who wanted to help and wanted to serve and saw a need, and they started going back. And we go and we do free medical work to people in Nigeria. And now we're actually in the process of trying to raise money to build a hospital, because we see that the facilities there are subpar.
I see. And what do you do when you volunteer? Because I presume you're not a nurse or have that kind of background.
Right. Yeah. So I have no medical background whatsoever, but I do have a heart to serve. And so what I do, a lot of my job is crowd control. Right. So there's thousands of people in line waiting to get this medical care, and they usually wait till we come every single year. And so one of my jobs is to pretty much work on the operations management side of it and just the flow. And so that's one job. Another job is to transport patients, right? So we have a facility that we use, and we also have a post-op just room that we use. And so one of my jobs is to help transfer patients from the post-op from the facility to the post-op, and that might just be via gurney, wheelchair, or whatever. So I'm one of the bigger guys there, so that usually helps.
And then you said your wife is Nigerian, so did you meet her on one of these trips?
Well, I actually met her about 10 years ago, and she actually was helping take care of my grandmother who was in Nigeria. And so seen her every single year. Her mom's involved in helping out with the trip as well, so I see her year after year. I went over to Nigeria, I guess 2 years ago or 3 years ago with one of my teammates, and he actually said, "Hey man, I see that there's something here, why don't you go for it?" So he kind of pushed me on to go for it. And by the grace of God, it happened, and we've been married, like I said, about a year, and now we have a 2-month-old baby boy at home.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So and what are their names?
Well, so just one, we have a son, his name is Caleb.
Right.
And my wife's name is Ngozi, Ngozi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It means blessing in Igbo, which is one of the dialects over there in Nigeria.
What brought you to Thunderbird, or what made you decide to pursue an MBA while you're in the middle of your NFL career? That is a little unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, it is unusual. And I mentioned in one of our classes, Tom Hunsaker's class, the very first day, he had everyone write down 2 things. 1, what makes you unique, something memorable that no one will ever forget. And 2, why are you here? And my answer then is similar to what my answer was when I first started. I said, I came to meet some awesome people and make some great relationships. And not necessarily in the networking side of it. I didn't come to meet someone so I can network with them and get a job down the line. But I just feel like there's some great minds here and some great people and unique people, similar-minded people. So I wanted to meet them. And that was one of the reasons. Also, I don't know, I think being in Arizona and playing for the Cardinals, we have time in the off season, and I think I have something special that I can offer to people, and that's part of the reason why I came.
I remember when you first got here because we were in the same cohort. We started here.
We were.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
So.
You remember? What was your profession?
I do. Yeah. No,
I can ask you a question. Do you remember one of our chants? We went da na na.
Yeah, I do.
I'm Diamondbacks forever.
I know. No, that was the best chant. I mean, you could have doubled as NFL player and cheerleader at the same time. So.
Funny enough, I won the cheerleading award, the 2013 for our spring class.
Oh, did you?
And I still have it on my fridge.
Oh, that's.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, we won the best chant award, as I recall too.
I'm just
so
saying.
it was a great chant. So Yeah, but looking back 2 years ago, I remember when we first got here, you mentioned, you brought up some interesting stats regarding NFL players, like what the average career span was and how there was kind of a lack of planning for the future, and that was kind of what brought you here. Do you remember what those stats were, what those numbers were?
Yeah, and they may have changed a little bit in the last two or so years. But yeah, so pretty much 80% of NFL players within 2 years after they retire are either depressed, divorced, or bankrupt, or a combination of the three. And those aren't good numbers. Those aren't good numbers. And so part of the reason why I wanted to come continue my education, that was already instilled in me, but also I wanted to be able to help other guys around the league realize that it can be done, number one, and number two, that you don't have to be a part of those statistics.
Gotcha. So it was part of planning ahead to not be a statistic yourself.
Of course, yeah.
What are your thoughts on where Thunderbird has been, where it is now, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah, and it's interesting because my time at Thunderbird has been a little different than most as far as the duration of time here. So when you and I started, we were Thunderbird, and then there were talks of Laureate, and I remember seeing some of the students and hearing what they thought about that, and then that kind of fell through. And then now the merger with ASU is, as you mentioned, it's been realized. And so I think it's all about transition, and a lot of times transition's tough. It's never easy. But it's also about weathering the storm, right? And so with moves, with transitions, whether it's a marriage or whether it's a partnership or whether it's a job transition, it's never easy. But you always have to find a way to make the best out of it, make the most out of it. And so I think that's what we're trying to do. And so I'm looking forward to Thunderbird's future.
Since you are a football man, I consider you our resident expert. I just wanted to talk about the Super Bowl because that was in Phoenix this year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts. How did you think it went? Not just the game, but also just the city's preparations and its impact on business and on the state. What do you think about all of that?
Yeah, well, the Super Bowl had a huge impact on the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona. It was unbelievable just to see the way the whole city changed, right? I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to go to downtown Phoenix, but everything changed, and people loved it here. People got a chance to come to Phoenix, come to Arizona, and realize the beauty of it. And that's part of what I realized during my injury. As a professional athlete, you never get a chance to explore the city that you live in. Usually go to practice, play your games. As soon as the offseason ends, you go back home wherever you're from and you start training for the next season. And so finally I got a chance to explore that, and it was unbelievable. And it was so cool to see the Super Bowl and the Pro Bowl here in Phoenix, and just to see how people really fell in love with the city.
All right, so and you felt that it went well, that the city reacted well to that.
Yeah, the city reacted well, and even the visitors reacted well. I heard a lot of the comments I've heard were, we need to do the Super Bowl in Phoenix every 5 years. Don't rotate it, do it every 5 years. So that's one thing I heard about the Super Bowl.
So once you finish your MBA, what's next for you? You're going to continue to play for the NFL for a while and then migrate to broadcasting, or what all is next?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, as I mentioned, I want to play as long as I can, +2, of course. And also want to do some broadcasting, as we mentioned, but there's another international aspect that we talked about, right? We talked about that Nigeria piece, and also being a Thunderbird, I got a chance to do the winter room in Hong Kong and Singapore. We were studying Asian financial markets, and I had an unbelievable time in Hong Kong. I loved it. That was the second time I've been, and so I can't pinpoint it right now for sure, and I don't think I'm supposed to. I think as time goes on and as I garner new experiences, I'll be able to answer that question a little bit better in the future. But as far as the immediate future, going back to playing the NFL, I'm a free agent this year, so I could be on a different team next year, so that's exciting. And spending time as a husband and a father. Thank
you very much for sharing about your personal and your professional life, and taking the time to get to know the Thunderbird community and let them know who you are.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure.
Mine too.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Rick.